You actually did your impression for Trump once,
I did.
like in the
That's
beginning, right?
that's one of my favorite stories ever because because okay, my favorite things in life are the things that happen out of nowhere. The things you plan, you sort of expect because you plan them. But the things that happen out of nowhere, that's to me the real magic. That's what gets me excited. Like bumping into Charlie Rose.
Right.
That's what makes the fireworks go off in my mind because it's completely okay. So
Right. Just yeah.
Trump announces he's running for president June 20th, 2015. That night, I'm hanging out with my comedian friends. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't think, I just knew him as the apprentice guy, the guy with the funny hair, that's how the whole world knew him at that point. The guy who was just roasted on Comedy Central. So at that point in American politics, I was like, nobody who got roasted on Comedy Central is ever going to become the president of the United States.
Right. Yeah.
So
For real.
I looked at the whole thing as sort of a publicity stunt. I thought it was really entertaining. So I'm sitting there talking to my friend about it. It was that night, the night he came down the escalator, that night. And I say to my buddy, Mike, I said, dude, and this idea, this is once again, you want to talk about God, whatever the hell. I mean, I do believe in God, but who knows what comes from where and what there's so many things that we human beings, we don't know. I got
Right.
theories, but we don't know. But what I can tell you is when this idea hit me, it's almost like it fell out of this, like this egg, like this fortune cookie. It went like this. It just hit me in the head. I'd never gotten a tattoo in my life, but I say to my buddy Mike, and once again, this was as a joke because I thought he was running like as a publicity thing. I said,
Right.
dude, what if I got a Trump 2016 tattoo?
And that was your first tattoo ever.
My first tattoo ever. And Mike just looks at me without skipping a beat. He goes, dude, if you get that, I'll pay for it. Which is a big deal because he's a Jew. So that's an extra big deal.
There you go.
So I remember I'm like, yeah, I'm all gung ho. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I remember talking to this girl and she was like, those aren't really your friends. If they're going to pay for that, those aren't your friends. So then she started to get into my head. So then I go back to Mike and he goes, if you don't do it, you're a pussy. Now at that age, I think I was 23, something, 24, 22. I don't even know. Early 20s. At
Right.
that age, psychologically, I had this issue. If somebody called me a pussy, I think I'd do anything. So
Right.
I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we marched down there. It's, everything in New York closes at 4 a.m. We
Right. Yeah.
marched down there. It's like 3:50. The guy is closing up the tattoo shop. And or my drunken gaggle of friends come over. They're like, oh, wait. He's like literally closing the thing, locking it up, ready to go home. My Mike goes, sir, my friend here, he needs a tattoo. The guy's like, no, we close. You coming back tomorrow? And they go, no, you don't understand. He wants a Trump 2016 tattoo. Homie stops, looks at us, and goes, whoa, I'm opening back up.
Damn. Yeah.
Opens the gate back up. He calls his tattoo guy, who's now at the train station waiting for the train. Happened to be a Mexican guy. Remember the big news was
Oh yeah.
Mexicans are rapists. He calls him. He's like, Pedro, you got to come. This guy wants a Trump 2016 tattoo. He's like, holy shit. He comes back. They keep the place open illegally just for us to get this
Wow.
crazy tattoo. Mike ended up chipping in 50. My friend Melissa and my friend Gene. Melissa and Gene ended up starting to date after that. Now they're married. So guess what? My Trump tattoo created a fucking marriage.
Wow.
So yeah. So we get the tattoo and then I post it online. And at that time, people forget because he was president for 4 years and people had such strong emotions. But at that time, everybody just thought it was hilarious. Like nobody
Strong
was offended
feelings.
by it. Maybe one or two people, but the overwhelming majority of people in show business and comedy were just like, yo, that's so bad. That's commit. They're like, talking about commit to the bit. So then people got in my ear and they started to say, Jason, you gotta tweet him. You gotta tweet him. You gotta get he needs to see this. So I would tweet him and he didn't see it. And I tweeted the kids. I tweeted Don Jr., Eric, nobody saw it. So, I started to get a little discouraged, and I had a job at the time walking dogs in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and I had like 15 dogs, and they're all biting each other and barking, and I'm like, I'm hating my life, and I'm hating these dogs, and I'm looking over right across the river is Manhattan, and it's like, damn, I want to be in the big city, not in Greenpoint with the Polish people and the dogs in hell. So I'm like, I had this glimmer of hope, and I'm like, maybe Trump saw my tweet. So I take out my phone, I open up the Twitter app. Now it's X, but it was Twitter at the time. And no, Trump did not see my tweet, but he said, big announcement. I'm going to be doing an in-person book signing for my book, Crippled America, at Trump Tower this Tuesday at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Be there. It's going to be the best thing ever. So I'm like, oh, this is it. He'll be there. I'll be there. The media will be there. So I wake up early that day. I get in line. I come in. I show Trump, and Trump loved it so much. Because he had that resting Trump face on. He was just like, he sees the tattoo. He lights up, the biggest smile I've ever seen on a human being. So then he's like, wow, I love that. This kid's a winner. I love it. And then I see him thinking because he's signing the book. And then I see him go, wait a minute. And he pulls back his chair and he goes, come here. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So Trump, he's sitting at a desk with like the big apprentice chair, like red leather chair, and the line of people are behind us. But then over to the right is like a curtained off, and all the media are there. And when I say all the media, I mean everyone. CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, CBS, Channel 21, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, New York Times, Time Magazine, Variety Fair, everything, world, Japan, Italy, Spain, everybody in the whole world media are there. He was the hottest story in the world, and they all followed him around like flies on shit. So I run up to Trump, and I'm all excited, and he just looks at me and he goes, get the book. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, Donald, I'm sorry. I'm going to go grab it right now. I got you, Mr. Trump. So I run back, I get the book, I hand him the book, and then he starts posing, holding up the book and pointing, best salesman in the world. He's holding up the book, pointing to my arm, and he's like, this kid, I got to win the election next year for this kid. So he's like, wow, look at that. And he's posing. So, and the picture of that was half the page in the New York Post. It was half the page 6 or 7. Page 7 was being had.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then he goes back and sits down, and then I go to walk off, and the media's like, no, don't go anywhere. They're like, how old are you? What's your name? What do you do? Oh, you're a comedian. Where do you perform? And then they were finally done with me. They said, thanks, take care, adios.
Tattoo here is something I got a little while ago in the West Village. When he had just announced, I sort of got it as a joke. I wasn't really even into him at the time. So I really just got it as a joke. But since then, he's kind of grown on me, and I actually kind of like the guy.
So I go to walk off. And then I bump into a guy named Mark Halpern. And he was another one who got Me Too'd and fell off the face
He's
of
a
the
writer
earth.
too, right? A reporter.
Yeah, he's a writer, and he used to have a show called, I forget what it was called, but it was on Bloomberg, and he was also on MSNBC all the time. He was a big deal.
Yeah.
He had that show called The Circus on Showtime where they followed around the 2016 election with
That's
that other guy, the
how
bald
I know
guy.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he like has a little smirk on his face. He's like, so you're a comedian, huh? You want to do some jokes for our cameras? And I was like, sure. So at the time, Obama was president. So do a little bit of that and this and there you go again. So I do that. And then he's like, I'll do a little George W. Bush. Here in America, we're here at Trump Tower. So come up with something about low energy. I said, Donald, that's mean. Al Qaeda. So I did that, and then he goes, "Can you do a Trump?" I'm like, "Can I do a Trump? Of course I could do a Trump." So he goes, "Would you?" He looks me right in the eye, and he goes, "Would you be willing to do that in front of him?" And I'm like, "Of course I'd be willing to do that in front of him. Are you kidding me?" So then he goes, "Oh yeah, we interviewed him at the Woolman Rink yesterday, and we gave him questions he likes. And when we give him questions he likes, he gives us access." And I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome." So then he takes me over, and Trump was sitting there, and there was this really flamboyantly gay man talking to Trump, and he's like, "I've never followed politics in my life," but he's like, "But I saw you on TV, and I'm all in. I am all in." But he's like, "Am I your guy? Am I your guy?" He goes, "I gotta hear you say it." He goes, "You're my guy," and he's like, "There we go." And that guy gets shuffled off, and then Mark Halperin taps Trump on the shoulder. He goes, "Mr. Trump, the tattoo guy, he does an impression of you. Would you like to see it?" So he's like, "Sure." So Mark Halperin had one camera with his cell phone on Trump, and then they had the TV camera on me. And I'm like, "You look at Hillary with the emails," and whatever else I said. So then it was great because you had me, and then they cut to his reaction, and then back to me. And then he goes, "Very good. He's better than the pros. He is a pro." And then Trump goes, "Very good. Come here." He gives me his hand. So then I go his hand like that, and then I had my hand on his back. I'm like groping the president. I'm all over it. I got my one hand on his back, one hand over here. He's giving me the yank. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Wow, that's freaking awesome. Talk about a tattoo that paid off.
Yeah.
Can we see it real quick? Where is it?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yes. That's the one. That's the money, man.
The money. And it was all, like I said, I'd like to take credit, but I can't. The idea, I'll never forget the way it came to me. It was like a rock fell and hit me in the head. It was like the idea was smacked into my brain.
And I bet you that's more than you thought would ever happen with this.
Who the hell would predict? Who the hell would think that could happen? But it happened.
That's crazy, man.